Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, great. My name is Amani. I'm a master's student. I just graduated from the University of South Florida. My research is entitled Gatekeeping in Citizen Journalism, a Qualitative Examination of Participatory Newsgathering. And this kind of follows up on a discussion that they just had, which I feel is very appropriate. There was a quote by Barack Obama who, on July 22nd, he apologized to Shirley Sherrod, and he said, basically, I'll summarize what he said. He said that now with YouTube and all of the blogs, that the media is very quick to jump on whatever the hot topics are. And we, of course, know that there was a conservative blogger who posted a video that really just took a summary of what she said, and it was taken out of context. So my study really looked at the theory of gatekeeping, which is a long-standing mass communications theory, as I'm sure you all are familiar with. And it basically states that there are a select few decision makers who control what information passes through the editorial news gates. And research has shown through the years that it's a subjective process that is also influenced by organizational standards, economic constraints, technology, and in the case of broadcast news, visual elements. And however, in the wake of all this digital media, research suggests that traditional gatekeeping is being challenged by digital and new media. So as a background to how I got to this study, internet technology and user-generated content, also called citizen journalism. There are various different terms that are used to sort of explain what participatory media, people who create their own media, prod users is another term, but it's been very disruptive to traditional media. Scholars also suggest that we are witnessing an end of mass communications. This goes back to Chaffee and Mercer. It's almost a decade old. And Wen in 2006 said that future journalists will need to be trained not only to be critical gatekeepers, but also act as listeners, discussion and forum leaders, mediators in an intimate interaction with their audiences. And this appears to be a paradigm shift that's now underway with all this user-generated citizen journalism, social media. So the research holes that I found as I started examining this issue was Beard and Olson in 1999. They identified holes related to gatekeeping and the internet. And they had a qualitative study that examined webmasters as gatekeepers. And this is basically the foundation that I based my study on. In 2004, Boskowski identified holes related to how technology is affecting news production, and then more recently, Bruns states that there's a lack of established research tools and methodologies because of a limited understanding of how we may define citizen journalism itself. And so this current study, it examines gatekeeping theory, which goes back to White, David Manning White in 1950, and user-generated content. And my research question was, how is gatekeeping affected by participatory media in a network news organization? And what I looked at was CNN's iReport community, and I used in-depth interviews, which is similar to Beard and Olson's study. And there's also Quentin McCracken, who also outlined how to conduct research, qualitative research, using in-depth interviews. And so I interviewed 8 iReport producers. I will differentiate iReport producers from web and TV producers because iReport producers don't have any control of the editorial content that makes it on air. They simply vet, monitor, and observe what kind of content is being uploaded by the community. And so I won't go over all my reasons for conducting this qualitative research, but basically Creswell stated that conduct qualitative research when there aren't firm guidelines or specific procedures, and technology or the information is changing constantly, which seems to be the case right now. So my first research question was, how is technology used to gather user-generated media, and what procedures are in place to solicit it? Research question number 2 was, how is content shared across the web and cable network, and what criteria are used to determine if user-generated media meets established news standards? So my findings for research question 1. Technology in the web is used to solicit and gather user-generated content. CNN has developed a community, basically. They have a number of users, the numbers in my study, but they basically upload whatever they want to upload. It's unvetted initially, except for there's a little bit of moderation that's done, like if anyone uploads any sort of pornography or anything obscene like that, they remove it pretty quickly by a third-party organization. But other than that, everything is left to the community to flag. If there's something that the community deems not appropriate on the site, they can flag the content. So it's a community-based model. There's also an algorithm, so they have a formula, a program, I guess, that's been written that helps them identify a more popular content on the site. This algorithm helps them identify content that is getting a lot of comments, that is being linked to substantially, and that is getting a lot of conversation around the content. The iReport team also creates assignments, so they create assignments for the community. They are interested in creating this sort of building relationships with their members, so they will upload content that they might find passionate, and they have a various degree of success. They're still experimenting with things that create interactivity between the community. And in general terms, hard news, breaking news, human interest stories, enterprise journalism, and also they have some fun assignments they also feature on the site, which seems to be featured most often in terms of what makes it through their editorial gates. So for research question 2, how is content shared across the news network? Potentially newsworthy stories that are uploaded to iReport are pitched just like, if you're a reporter, you would pitch a story to your news managers. They have an editorial meeting every day. The iReport team, they have a member that represents iReport who pitches their iReports, and they say, hey, these are some stories you may want to consider for air or for the CNN.com website. They also have a daily email blast that is sent out to all of the producers for both CNN International and all of their TV programs. And any CNN producer can use vetted iReports. It's really up to the individual show and web producers. And they are up to, as I already mentioned, they are have the final decision-making process of what can be used. As far as research question 3, which is, to me, the most important question is what standards are used, what traditional standards are applied to user-generated content. They use the same traditional standards with user-generated content that they use as they would use to their traditional gathered media. They verify everything twice. What they do is they will call the iReporter and have a conversation with them to see if their information sort of matches what they're seeing. They will ask other departments if this video or this visual kind of matches the other information that CNN has learned about the content. If the person has doctored the picture at all, they can go into Photoshop and look at the metadata to see if the picture's been doctored. So they have all these standards that they use to see if the content is true and factual. And it seems that their content that they feature, in general terms, falls within the national news agenda of their national coverage. So some examples of iReports that have been featured, and these are just a few. The Virginia Tech Massacre, which was sort of the seminal moment for CNN's iReport. I think we all remember those gunshots when that massacre was going on, and that student was the only person who captured any of that moment. So during Obama's election, there was a ticket problem. Some of the people who were trying to attend Obama's election, they couldn't get in, so they started uploading iReports. And in the conversations that I had with the iReport producers, they had no idea that this situation was going on until they saw people uploading these pictures, and so they featured that content and made it through and ended up being on air. And then the Iran election crisis, which is another, I think, another important event and significant event in CNN iReport's history, where you had no media pretty much coming out except for iReport. So 2 minutes left. I know I've been rushing through this, but this is like 2 years of research and like 10 minutes. So it appears that there are multiple gates. So there's the online community, there's the technology with the algorithm, there's the iReport producers who actually use their own news judgment to vet and pitch stories, and then the final gatekeeper would be the individual CNN producers and web producers. It appears that there is a participatory gatekeeping model that may be forming through CNN's iReport community, but the limitations were that I didn't interview any CNN producers or any web producers who had the final decision-making process. And also, I will say that CNN's iReport could also be just seen as another news source. So I'm going to give the counter argument in this research to say that maybe there are some who just look at CNN's iReport as it's just another news source that they can use. So there's some future research that I came up with. You can apply there's an idea that Axel Bruns came up with called gate watching. That can be applied to citizen journalism. There's some studies that could maybe look into whether iReport itself is becoming a trusted news brand, and look at any similarities between CNN and other local or national news organizations who also select, vet, and incorporate citizen journalism user-generated content into their content. So that's it. My Twitter is @UrbanReporter. That's my email, and I guess we'll take questions at the end. Thank you very much.